Now, besides the morning of the late President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, there was equally a concern about a Kenyan who was flogged by his Chinese boss and he was arrested later. The investigative agencies or the authorities have established that he had no formal documentation to be in the country and that he and others were illegally in Kenya. And as we await the court process to, of course, take effect, we have a video to show you here. And then we come and seek the sentiments of our panel before we delve deeper into the matter that regards Mzee Moi.
Faster, no beat, then no beat. Okay? Hit once. Quack, quack. No, tiki tiki. Okay, go.
Here.
Yes, move.
Move up.
Thank you so much. We are having that discussion here and seek the sentiments of our panel. And the Star paper today had a cartoon edition which featured that, and it's an interpretation of what happened in the video I've just shown or put up on air. It's in regard to the Chinese influence in Kenya, and to be specific across the African continent, and the red shaded Chinese flag, the 4 yellows up top and the major one beneath that, and how the Chinese influence seems to be taking toll here in the country and across the continent. The flogging of the Kenyan who is allegedly, according to his workers, had come late for work or reported late to work, and how that is taking toll in the continent. We are joined for that discussion by Mugambi Laichena, who is an advocate of the High Court. Wakili, thank you. I do appreciate your time. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Edgar Koskei,
yes,
is political commentator, analyst on governance issues in the country. First of all, coming to you, Edgar.
Yes.
When you take a look at that and the fact that there have been concerns generally about the Chinese, influx of the Chinese in the continent,
yes,
and the labor that they shift from China to Africa, and instead of using the African labor to undertake their mega construction across the continent. What do you make of this? Was it imminent? Was it forthcoming and inevitable? And is it that we have been living in denial in the extent that this might be a new form of new colonialism?
Good morning, Ayub. Long time.
Long time?
Yes.
And that period, which is so long, is when we lost Mzee.
We are mourning as the Kalenjin community, and we are also happy that he had to live that long. Anyway, we'll
discuss that.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, about the Chinese, it's a sorry state in our country that we are having even the Chinese wakichoma mahindi down there at around Kenya Bus, down there. The Chinese have taken over, literally. This is a country that is very porous. It's a country that you can do anything that you want, anytime, anyhow. And it is how we were brought up. It is how we have lived for a very long time. So whatever you are seeing on your screens is a tip of the iceberg, Ayub. It is a tip. Whatever the Chinese are doing in our country is terrible. It is a horrible state of the country right now. One, the Chinese, they come with their materials. They come with their food. They come with their life. There is nothing we are giving out as Kenyans. There is nothing they are getting in for us. Now, there was a situation in China one day when some black African like me boarded a bus, those buses that ply, the China route, whatever, inside there. And they were closing their noses. They were like, that is a black monkey. They look at us as people who are worthless and who deserve caning.
Okay.
And they can, since we are in need of this money, and the economy is really bad, we need this cash, and we will lie down to be caned so that the landlord doesn't close my house. We will comply to that. because it is just an infliction of injury that will take around 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and we are done, and my pay comes in. People were caught in there whose even visas had expired,
Okay.
whose licenses are not there, and if they are processed, and if the police takes more action to get to nab more people, then we'll be a better country. But I promise you, Ayub, this thing will remain like this. We will get more Chinese coming in with coronavirus, and we are a doomed state. We are just a horrible country.
Okay, given that, I mean, there are structures that are meant to undertake their constitutional mandate, but Mugambi, if I may come to you, this is not only a Kenyan affair, it's equally an African affair, because the concern is that besides the Chinese, the Americans, the British, and the Russians equally want the African attention in this regard. And there are fears of exploitation, there are fears of exploitation of the human resource, the human capacity, and equally the natural African resources. What's happening is just perhaps a cherry at the top of the cake that we normally see here in the country. How do we put institutionalization of, I mean, capacitate the capacity of institutions across the country and make sure that despite the diplomacy and the sort of symbiotic relations we share with the Chinese, that there must be the red lines that ought not to be violated or, I mean, in this regard, breached?
Thank you, Ayub. Essentially, if you look at, when I saw that video for the first time, I also thought it was a joke, or maybe it's something that was done sometimes during the colonial period or so. Because first of all, you need to ask yourself, what is caning? You know, caning is a form of punishment, right?
Okay.
And who punishes who? It is the superior that punishes the inferior, isn't it? So essentially, what you can see there is that the Chinese have come now to control us. You can imagine, we went to an extent whereby even the government banned caning in schools. And the schools, these are children who are, which was happening due to discipline or something like that. But if you see a gentleman like that being caned, someone who is married with children, and they can watch their father being caned like that, and like my brother said, it's a tip of the iceberg. Some things like this are happening without us knowing. And when we come to looking at what is the nation doing about it, there's little that the government is doing about this.
Okay.
Because we've allowed the foreigners, and I want to say specifically the Chinese people, look as if they are ruling this country now. Because everywhere you go in the construction industries, when they come to the construction industry, it is unfortunate that most of the companies you've seen supplying materials to them, most of the companies that you see selling food to them, even the garages that they take the motor vehicles are owned by the fellow Chinese. You get that point?
Okay.
So it's like already they are living in China, but living in Kenya. All right? But this is actually, I don't want to call it, it's like, it's more than impunity. I don't want to call it even impunity or something. It's more, it's beyond that. Because actually, this is terrible. This only used to happen during the colonial periods. That is when the Africa would be caned for the hand labor or kind of sort of.
Okay.
But I also think as Kenyans, we need to stand up and say no, an end to this. Because for sure, I don't think that gentleman could not have gotten a job somewhere else.
Yep.
Other than put himself in such a situation whereby you allow someone to slash you like a slave just because you are late for work.
I mean,
because you can see when the police went to investigate those issues, they were trying to say, oh, it was a joke, it was a what, some things. But unfortunately, the truth came out that that is not a joke.
Okay.
All right? So we need to put something we call a line to foreigners or to any people who come to invest in this country. If you look at the immigration laws, in fact, when you open a company here in Kenya, there is a limit as to how many professionals you can employ who are foreigners or from outside the country, or how many how many work permits can you get for foreigners in your company, all right? But unfortunately, such laws have already been violated. They are being violated in the eyes of the government,
Okay.
in the eyes of the police. By the way, that restaurant is very near to Kileleshwa police station for that matter. So, as in, you can imagine what is happening, and they know it. Most of them, you saw, they didn't have even work permits. They're not even supposed to be in Kenya. But he's doing whatever he's doing because it's like the law is not going to catch that person.
Okay.
So it is time that we strictly adhere to the immigration laws, whereby we have a limitation of the professionals who are employed, because that's not a profession.
All right.
The person you saw slashing one of our Kenyans there is not a
Because
profession.
people never had the formal
He
documentation.
didn't even have formal documentation. So I don't even understand what he's doing in this country by this morning. He should be charged and deported
To Wuhan.
to wherever, let him.
Wuhan, but to China.
Yes.
Okay.
It's unfortunate he has to go and face the unfortunate things that are happening there. But I'm saying we need to put a bottom line to this. Let us enjoy our country. Because if you're kenning me, because I'm late to come to work, am I really enjoying my freedoms and rights as a Kenyan? Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.